Hello, good morning. I hope that everybody is well. It's a cold day in Cornwall. The UK has got some really cold weather coming. Normally Cornwall escapes the snow, but my husband did tell me that there's a chance that we could have snow later this week. It's very unusual to have snow at Poldhu Cove. This week I'll talk about personal things at the end of the video, but I have got some very good news to share with you. This week, stitching wise, I've been really busy working on my latest model, and I've opened her up so that you could see her in her entirety. I wouldn't normally have this top bar in this position, it would be turned over once, but I wanted to be able to show you all that I've done. This is an adorable sampler, very, very different to anything I've stitched before. At the moment I'm having great fun exploring different styles of samplers, and it's keeping my interest fresh. Just going to tell you a little bit about this sampler. It was stitched in a convent, a convent school, and it was stitched in England, but the convent was run by Irish Roman Catholic sisters, and I think you can certainly see an influence from Ireland, and you can also see a Catholic influence as well. And I don't know why I say that. I was raised as a Catholic. I now describe myself as a Christian, but I was raised as a Catholic. And there's just something about this sampler that reminds me of, I don't know what, but it's just something. I can't put it into words. Last night I worked on, well, in fact, last night I stitched these bottom 2 rows of alphabets and numbers, and I have to admit I made a mistake. I didn't look at the chart that I graphed carefully enough, and I did make a mistake in this bottom row, but I've decided to leave it. It makes the sampler mine. The chart is correct, it's just my stitching that went adrift here. But what I really love about this sampler is this band at the bottom. It's so pretty. And I really enjoyed working on that last night. I ran out of time, I didn't finish, but tonight, if my plans go, well, if everything goes according to plan, I will finish this row and carry on working down. There's quite a little bit more of this sampler to stitch. Very, very pretty. Now, I have to tell you a story about this sampler. I think it was probably Tuesday night. I was stitching on this sampler and I had a phone call. So little Hugo, he is totally focused on my spools of Overa Soir 103, and ever since we've had him, if he came into my study and I had my threads out, he would take a thread and he would chew it and hide it. He would sort of like bury it in his toy box. So I have started to be really, really careful about my threads and where I leave them. So, knowing that I couldn't leave them on my chair, I actually put this in the little open tray I have that holds all my spools, and that sits on the little table next to my sewing chair. So I went off and I had my phone call with another needleworker, and I think we were probably on the phone for about an hour, and I came back down and Ray said to me, he said, "What's Hugo got?" And I said, "The little monkey, he's got one of my spools." And he had this spool, and as you can see, he had chewed the ends off. That's what he does. And this spool was a really dark green when I found it, because he'd been he chews the ends off, but he sort of sucks on the silks. So anyway, I picked it up and I thought, where did he get this from? I wasn't stitching with this colour. So I put it on my Arga to dry, and I sat down and I carried on stitching. And when I got to the end of the thread I was on, I went to get the spool, which happened to be this colour, to carry on stitching. It's the colour on these leaves. Anyway, I couldn't find it, and I thought, what's he done with this now? So I got down on my hands and knees and I searched everywhere through our TV room. I went into his toy box, I went into his bed, went into his armchair, went looking on the sofa that the dogs use as a bed. Couldn't find it, went all through the kitchen, and I said to Rez, when I was out, did you let Hugo and Bertie out into the garden? He said, yes, I did. So I thought he must have taken this spool of a Verosoir 103 out into the garden. So Ray and I went out into the garden with the dogs and torches, because it was dark. We put the floodlights on the back garden and we were searching the garden for a spool of 103, and we couldn't find it. And I was thinking, oh gosh, you know, this colour, it's a really unusual colour. So anyway, I went into my stash of colours, and fortunately I did have another spool of this colour. So I sat down and I started stitching. I was thinking, do you know what? It's really, really strange because I can't remember having a dark green spool out. There are 2 dark greens in this project, but those spools were in my tray. And at the end of the evening, when I went into the kitchen and I was going to make a cup of tea, so I put the kettle on the Arga, my spool that had been drying in the Arga had changed from a dark green to this lighter green, and I realised then that the spool that I had caught him with was actually this one, and we had been out in the garden searching in the dark with torches on our hands and knees in the house. And we had had the spool all the time. So anyway, I now realise that because Hugo is that little bit taller, it's no good having something in an open tray on my little table by the side of my stitching chair. So I am now keeping my spools of 103 in my tin that contained the gorgeous chocolates my friend sent me from the biscuiteers. And do you know what? Last night I was watching Hugo and he was trying to open this tin. He was trying always. He is totally transfixed with these spools. And I think it's because he's always known me to have one of these sort of on my lap, in my hand, by the side of me. You know, whether I'm charting in my study or stitching in my sewing chair in the evening. And he probably smells me on these spools, but you know, it's an expensive little habit of his, chewing on my silks. But I have said before how robust 103 is, and this has dried and I can use this spool to stitch with. That's how robust this silk is, and it was sodden when I got it out of his mouth. But there we are. Okay, so I've worked on that sample I just showed you, and I've also been working on the February assignment for the Anne Morrison Stitch Along. And in February, we are stitching these 2 rows, and I haven't finished. I've got 2 more letters to stitch there, and you're probably thinking, why did I stitch that way and that way? Well, what happened, I stitched the red because this bottom border dividing band has red and green, and I stitched the red this way, and I had enough thread just to stitch these two before I ran out, and then I started stitching this way properly. This is such a pretty sampler, and I couldn't wait to start stitching on it this month. And as we're moving down, it's getting more and more exciting, and so many people are working ahead of the stitch along, which is absolutely fine. Everybody's saying that they're having trouble stopping working on her. She's just so enchanting. Now, there has been a question raised by those, well, not only stitching ahead, but looking ahead. They're studying their chart, and there's been a question: has the bar across the A been missed off? And no, it hasn't. This is how little Anne stitched her A, and I have seen this before in Scottish samplers. So this is correct. But you know what? If you want to add a bar to that A, this is your sampler. You can do whatever you want with your Anne. This is another Scottish sampler, very, very beautiful sampler that's going to be releasing later in the year. And I wanted to show you the A here. It's very different to how we normally see an A, but you know, this is how these little girls stitch their samplers, and this could have been a recognised form of writing the letter A in a certain font. Isn't that beautiful? Scottish samplers are delicious. Okay, also somebody has raised a question in the Stitch Along group about the alphabet. Let's open up the middle, that's probably easier. Where is the middle? Okay, let me put my glasses on as well. In this row along here, there is no J. Well, in olden times, I and J, you know, an I could be used for J, a J could be used for an I, but you normally saw an I used for a J. And also, U and V were, they represented the same letter in the alphabet, and she's only stitched what we recognise as a U, but that was a U or a V. It's just the way it was years ago. There's lots of quirky rules about fonts from times past, and one of the most fascinating ones, and ones that we see so often in sample verses, is the long and the short S. The long S looks like the letter F, and there's set rules about when the long and the short S was used, and I have written about that in some past booklets of reproduction samplers. She's so beautiful, really, really is. Okay, so that was my stitching this week. I've also been busy charting this week. There's some new models that have gone into production. This week I had some goodies come in the post, and this box came, and on there is a little sticker that says the Wee Linen Company, and this is a new company that's overdying linen, and it's based in Scotland, hence the Wee Linen Company. So the moment I took the plastic wrapping off this box, there was the most beautiful scent. There's a lovely fragrance to this box, and I opened it up, and the presentation is really beautiful. This company is all about a quality product presented in a very upmarket way. when you go into a designer boutique, the first thing that always hits you is you can always smell beautiful fragrances in the air, and everything in there is really lovely quality, and that's the sort of feel. You get a feeling of luxury, a luxury product when you open this box. There is a business card, and on the business card it says naturally hand-dyed linens from Wester Ross, Scotland, and it's the Wee Linen Company, and it gives their website address, which is the weelinencompany.com, and it gives their email address as well. Then there was a card, which is something that you can use to record what you've used the linen for, and if you frame your sampler that you stitch the linen on, you can put this on the back of your frame sampler as a record. And then you have the actual linen itself, which comes wrapped in tissue paper and is sealed. It's, you know, even the tissue paper has been beautifully folded. It's been concertinaed in the middle so it fits perfectly in the box. The linen comes then in a polythene bag, and it's beautifully tied in string with a bow and a lovely label that gives us the colour of the What are you doggies doing? What are you doggies doing? Oh, they say you should never work with children or animals on screen. Oh, do you know what the little stinkers have done? We've got 2 staircases. They ran up the one staircase along the landing, and we have a gate there to stop them going further along the landing. And one of us must have left it open, and they came down the main stairs, through the hall, into the room. That was Bertie leading Hugo astray. Okay, so where were we? Yes, so it comes wrapped with this little label on, and again, beautiful quality card, and on the back it gives the count and the colour. And the colours of their linen all have Scottish names. Now, I might pronounce this incorrectly, but this one is Grunard. So I haven't opened it yet, so let's just open it and have a look. I love having linen, and you can never have too much linen. Now, I'm really pleased about this. The box has this beautiful fragrance when you open it, but the fragrance isn't on the linen. The fragrance must be on this tissue paper. Yes, it's the tissue that's scented. So when you're working on this, you haven't got the smell of this scent coming out. The linen they're dyeing is Zweigart based, and this is a lovely colour. I'm going to be putting this into production. I have a sampler in mind to stitch on this linen. That's beautiful. Some lovely warmth to this linen. So anyway, the lady who has set up this company, her name is Rebecca, and Rebecca has a page on Instagram and Facebook for the Wee Linen Company, and also she has her website. So if you're interested, I would suggest that you go on and have a look. There are some beautiful coloured linens, and I'm looking forward to exploring her linens much more. In fact, I'm going to put an order in now for some more linens. This presentation is really, really lovely. Very, very nice. And it's really lovely for those of us in the UK to have a company that's in the UK over dyeing linens. In the UK, it's a nightmare trying to get linens. You know, when we export things into our country, anything over, or 15 £15 and over, we have to pay 20% tax, and there is a handling charge as well. So for example, I think the handling charge is £12. So if we bought something that was £15, £15, we would have £3 tax to pay and £12 handling. So that's £15 to purchase and a £15 charge to export. It's very, very expensive. If you live, for example, in the States and you buy something from Scotland, such as that linen, you can spend, I think it's about $800 before you have to pay customs duty. And there's us, anything from £15 and over. But there we are. Now, in the post this week, I also had some more goodies come, and this was a really lovely surprise. I had a bag come, and when I opened it, it was full of Threadkeeps, and the Threadkeeps all had images of samplers from the hats portfolio, and these are really, really lovely. Look at that one, the Alexanders of Linstratham, and Rebecca, or Becky, I think she likes to be known as Becky. Yes, Becky Wilder. Because this was a Scottish sampler, she put a Celtic knot on the Threadkeep, which I thought was really lovely and thoughtful. There's a basket from Isabella Uffendale. There's the church from Anne Roberts. There's the beautiful red house from Elizabeth Furness. But not only does she do these as Threadkeeps, but she does some, just a second, oops, other ones that have little hooks on that can actually go on your project bag. So you can clip that on to your project bag. Now this project bag is for Anne Morrison, but just, oh, my fingers don't want to work this morning. Right, let's start again. That's better. There we go. So on your project bag you could put one of these, and then you know what your project is. I think that's a really, really good idea. So if I was working on Anne Thomas, I could have Anne Thomas on my project bag. I think this is adorable. This one is Harriet Salt. Isn't that lovely? And this one is Martha Dawson. I love little things like this, I really, really do. So thank you so much, Becky, for sending these to me. Now, Becky Wilder is known on social media as Socks for Mum, and she has an Etsy store where she has all sorts of goodies for sale. And I presume that, for example, if you wanted, I don't know, Jessie Watson as a scissor fob, or to go onto your project bag, she would put this type of fastening on. But if you wanted Jessie as a Threadkeep, she would put that type of ring on. Message her on Etsy or Instagram and ask her that question. So anyway, the postman was very kind this week. I'm going to be doing some stretching and lacing this week, and I've got my boards all cut, and I tell you what, I've never framed such a small little project. Now, I showed you last week my over 1 on 56 count, my frustration stitching, and I'm going to stretch and lace this this week. I've decided to stop as it is and not stitch the rest of the sampler. I worked all my turmoil out when I got to this stage, and I just thought I'm going to frame this just as it is, and it just reminds me of that time in my life. And I thought what would be really nice with this little sampler to have a nice big chunky frame and have a photograph frame back put on it, so that rather than hang on the wall, I can sit it on a surface somewhere in the house. So I think that this is probably going to be really tricky because it's so small. It might be easier to just do a great big massive one, but I will report back on that in my video next week. Now, for those of you who watched my video last week, you know that I stitched that whilst I was working some things out in my mind about little Hugo. In case you didn't watch my video last week, the long-awaited cardiologist appointment didn't happen with the cardiologist that I wanted to see. But it's either the power of Facebook or God is very kind, because after I made that video on Sunday, I received a message on Facebook Messenger Monday morning. And this is, "Hi Nicola, how are you? Feels like forever since we spent every summer playing in your lovely garden with Poppy and Blue." Now, Poppy and Blue are boxes that we had prior to Bertie. "I hope you don't mind, but," and it's her sister, "noticed your recent Facebook post about your lovely new puppy Hugo. He's gorgeous. I'm so sorry to hear he might have a heart problem. You must be so worried, and you're absolutely right that boxers are more prone to certain types of congenital defects. I just wanted to try and give you some peace of mind about getting Hugo seen, as I am now working for XXX as a trainee veterinary cardiologist." I'm going to call her a girl because I'll always think of the two sisters as little girls. She's a qualified vet who's specialising as a cardiologist. And you never guess what? She works under the cardiologist that I wanted Hugo to see. It's such an amazing coincidence. These two girls and their mother and father came to our cottages each summer for many, many years, and then her parents moved to Cornwall, and I knew that this girl had become a qualified vet because I have seen them as adults, but I never realised that she'd gone on to train as a cardiologist. Anyway, the message goes on, and it's all sorted. We are going to see the cardiologist that we wanted to see Hugo, and I've had a very, very long chat on the phone with our chosen cardiologist, and she just from talking to her, she's made me feel so much more at rest, and I feel that Hugo is in safe hands. You know, I've seen all her qualifications, I've had many recommendations from different people about this lady, but when I actually talked to her, her sense of kindness and warmth and just her whole demeanour on the telephone gave me a lot of confidence. So we're going to see her on Friday, and little Hugo is going to have an ultrasound, and if it appears that he's got a hole in his heart, they're going to carry out some more procedures, but it's all going to be done on that day whilst we wait. I just feel so much more at ease. You know, I think that no matter what it is, at least we know what it is after Friday. So that was some good news. And the other good news is that my husband got vaccinated on Wednesday at our local village doctors, and he had the AstraZeneca vaccination, which he was really pleased about. He's had no side effects whatsoever. He had a little tiny sort of red mark on his arm where vaccination was administered, but you know, no side effects whatsoever. I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks that I will get called up for my vaccination as well. Okay, so there's one other thing that I would like to talk about, and that is an app that's available for needleworkers. And the app is Cross Stitch and Cross Stitch Plus, and I'd like to focus on Cross Stitch Plus because that is the app that I have downloaded onto my phone and my iPad. And I'm sure that many of you have already got Cross Stitch Plus downloaded. But basically what it is, it's an app that records your stash, whether your stash is linen, threads, charts or beads. And I'm going to bring this up on my phone and talk you through it. Now, this actually has a journal facility on the app, and basically with the journal facility you can show projects that you are dreaming about buying, about projects that you have kitted up, projects you have started and projects that you have finished. So if you fancy something and you think, well, I'm going to buy that, you can pop that into your wish list. Then when you buy it, you can put it into your charts that you have, and then when you kit it up you can start recording information about it, and you can record anything you want about your project in the journal. So you have your project name, who the designer is, the status, and the status is, you want to buy the chart, you've got it, you've kitted it up, you've started it, you've finished it. You can put all sorts of notes in it, and you can put photographs as well in there. Then with your inventory, you can record the charts that you actually have in your stash, and there are many designers already put into this app, and I'm very glad to say that hats is one of them. So if you bought one of our charts, you just go to designer, you go down to hats and you click on hats, and then you type in the name of the chart, and that's there in your inventory. With threads, I ought to be reading this from here actually. I'm going to switch to this because I'm getting it right if I'm reading. Going back to the journal mode, you can add up to 5 pictures on Cross Stitch Plus. In your inventory, you can include 2 pictures of the charts. There is, actually, do you know what? I think I prefer to do this off here. Oh no, hold on. There's over 230,000 threads preloaded. And that includes DMC, Averroisoir, Weeks Dye Works, Classic Colour Works, Rainbow Gallery, and many more. And they say they are continuing to add new threads all the time. They say there's thousands of preloaded designers, which is very impressive. With the linen, they also have linen companies. And it was really interesting actually to see the makers, that there was just such a really lovely selection of them there. I think this is a great idea. The Cross Stitch Plus app was free to download, and you've got it for 7 days to try. So it's not going to cost you anything to download it and have a look to see if it's going to work for you. If you decide that you would like to use the Cross Stitch Plus, there is an annual subscription of only $9.99, just under $10 for the year. Now that's Cross Stitch Plus. If you're looking at Cross Stitch, it's all different, but we're today looking at Cross Stitch Plus because that's the one that I downloaded. Cross Stitch Plus is available for iOS, for your Apple devices, but coming very soon it's going to be available for Android. And they say here that if you use iOS and Android devices, when Android is available, you don't have to buy it for both. You can buy it for one and you can use it on both. What I liked as well, that I can have this app on my phone and my iPad, and they are synced. So if I put something in on my iPad, it will appear on my phone. I just thought that was really, really great. They say that they are continuing to add enhancements and updates all the time to the app, and I just think it's great. Even though I don't have a huge stash of charts for other designers, you know, I do have a really big inventory of linens and threads, and sometimes it's hard to remember what you've got, and I'm always having to go up to my linen boxes and go through looking for what I've got. But with this app, I can record what I've got, so I can look when I'm downstairs in my study before I go rushing up looking to see if I actually have the particular type of linen. Have a look at it. It doesn't cost you anything to download, and you can trial it for 7 days. Okay, well, I think that is about it. This week it's been really wonderful to see how many people are stitching I Love Divine as Valentine gifts for their husband. And what's been really pleasing is to see how people are personalising this sampler for their husbands. I think that's absolutely great. Talking of Valentine's Day, Jessie Watson, which is the sampler that we released earlier in January, there is an informal, I'm not going to say stitch along, but there's an informal sort of gathering of needle workers who are going to start this sampler on Valentine's Day because of this beautiful heart. And I think that on our Samplers Facebook group that there's been a lot of chatter about starting this sampler on Valentine's Day. It's so heartening to see. Okay, now that is it for this week. So thank you once again for listening to my ramblings about needlework, and if God is kind, I'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.